All right, Todd. So the role of a real estate photographer has really kind of evolved over the last 5, 10 years, especially where it was pretty much just photos to now including video on top of video, multiple types of video that we shoot for our realtor clients. And now drone footage and virtual twilights and the list just goes on and on. Room measurements, just all sorts of things, and floor plans. And
Yes, so true, Craig. If we are only positioning ourselves as photographers, then do we become a commodity? That's what we're going to touch on today. What is your unique selling proposition? We're not saying that you can't be an only offering real estate photography, but how do you stand out in the marketplace is what we're going to discuss today.
right, there's a lot of thoughts and opinions around this, so let's dive in.
Welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. With your hosts, Todd Kivimaki and Craig Magrum.
Welcome to the Spiro Podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. Spiro is a real estate photography and videography software management platform to really help you manage your business and beyond that, grow your business. It handles everything from handling realtor client orders online in a custom portal to upselling your clients to more products and services that you can offer them, to delivering that media through custom web pages and also custom marketing tiles to really help the realtor build their business. I'm Craig Magrum. I'm the business development and client care specialist for Spiro and the host of the Spiro podcast. And along with me, as always, our founder and our owner of Spiro, Todd Kivimaki.
Hi, Craig. It's great to be here. Yes, another great week. We have a fun topic today, and we want to thank all of you. If this is your first time listening to us, thank you so much. And if you are back for another time, thanks for coming back to us. We hope that you find value in these podcasts. If you do, if you could hit that subscribe button or click the subscribe button, you will be first to be notified about our next release of podcast. And it helps us as well as we grow our subscriber base and following. If you have questions, we want this podcast to be driven around what you, the listener, need and what you're experiencing as questions or problems in your real estate media business. Please email us, hello@spiro.media, or straight to Craig at spiro.media. That's spiro.media.
Yeah, Todd. So let's dive into this. As we said in the show opener, real estate photographers are really doing more and more and more for their realtor clients. It started with just professional photography, and what it's evolved to is really a kind of a full marketing suite of products and services that we offer our clients. Like we said, video and multiple types of video, not just a walkthrough video tour, but branding videos, things that go on Instagram and TikTok, and quick hit vertical videos are something that we just started doing the last month or two here, and a lot of other companies like us. 3D imaging services, drone, room measurements, floor plans, and this is a new one, Todd. I just ran into this on one of the Facebook groups. A realtor that asked a photographer to install their real estate sign in the front yard.
Yes. Pile them in, and you better have a good rubber mallet to pound those things in.
Yeah. I'm like, seriously, and they're like, yeah. They turned them down politely, but I think realtors just they're busy people. They want to get as much packed in and as much value as they can. But it talked a little bit just about the adaptations and positioning we've had to do as real estate photographers.
Yeah, you as a real estate photographer, you really need to adapt and change to what your market needs. Craig, I too had heard, I think it was from an individual who had a real estate media company out in Arizona, I believe, and that was common for the photographer to actually go get the yard sign and put it in the yard. I know that was common, and that was something that they added into their offerings to compete. We see things like in our Charlotte market, it's required by the board to present room measurements or overall dimension to the MLS. So that's a product that we are looking at in just the Charlotte market. We don't have people in Ohio and Indiana and Michigan ask us about that. So I think it's important to adapt to what your client needs and to not just offer one thing so that you can become, that you can be and stay competitive in the marketplace.
Yeah, and that's all true enough, but it kind of begs then the question that we're tackling in this podcast is, in this is the main question: do we have to offer every service and every product that a realtor asks us for?
Quick story, Craig. I have a lot of them, but so back in 2000 and probably 7 or 8, I was a couple years out of college, and I was shooting full time. And I had, I think, one individual that worked part time for me out shooting as well. And we were only doing real estate video, just pans of houses. We were on a tripod. It was old GL2 mini DV camera, showing my age here. But we were only offering video, and we were working in only the Northwest Ohio area. And we had a good following, and agents were still out snapping their real estate photos with a digital camera, because cell phones didn't have anything. There were no cell phones with cameras back then. And we had a great little business of just taking video. We'd upload it online, go to YouTube, and link it on the MLS. I had a call from an agent in a different city, so a completely different market, about an hour and a half south of us in Dayton. And Bob, his name was Bob Pools, and he was a fantastic individual, forward-thinking with marketing. He called me, and he happened to I think he had the buyers for a listing that was in between my southern market and his northern market. So somehow he stumbled across one of my videos, and he said, I have to have this. So he called me, and he said, do you come to Dayton? Now, being the entrepreneur spirit, I said, of course, yes, we service the Dayton area, because I was wanting to grow. And we talked about your goals. Well, I wanted to grow, so I was gonna travel. And he said, great, can you come down next Thursday? I'm making the date up. I said, yes, I can be there, no problem. And he said, okay, great. I would like you to do photos. I have 3 listings I want you to do, or I'd like you to do video on 3 listings. And can you do photos as well? And I kind of paused briefly, and again, my goal was to grow. I said, yes, of course, Bob, we can do photos. And believe it or not, real estate photos at that time in 2007, 2008, that was not like a big offering. You didn't go online and pick out your professional photographer. It just was not the way the industry was. And so in between the day that I talked to Bob and the following week that I went down, I took a lot of images of, I was shooting weddings at the time. So I knew in the back of my mind that I could pull off a photo. So that's the first thing that I want to make a point. If you're going to add a new service, don't wing it. I did have some information and a lot of experience with taking photos. I knew I had the correct lens. I had looked at plenty of photos. But that was kind of how it was presented to me and how we grew, where he needed that commodity that he saw as photography, but he also saw video being the way that he would grow. So that was an important pivoting point in WOW's history that we added photography on, and it actually came after we began shooting video.
I kind of chuckled a little bit. You mentioned 2 things. One, you used the word commodity a couple of times. And I think that's a good point, because if we're not offering multiple things and making ourselves of more value to the realtor, they are going to look at us just as a photographer, and they're always going to go best quality for cheapest price that they can get, because that's all we are to them, is just a photographer. So great point there. The other thing that made me kind of chuckle was you said about the photography and having never done it, don't just wing it. So that does kind of beg the question of where's the line of where we say yes or no to something that we're asked to provide that maybe we don't we don't currently offer. Is there a line or a boundary, and what are those things that we should take into consideration when we're presented with a new product or service that we're asked for?
What we do here at WOW, Craig, is we have a spreadsheet that's shared between the entire company. And that spreadsheet is just to collect feedback. So this is feedback, not job feedback. So not this photo was too bright or the video was too dark. This is feedback on our clients saying, can you help me with this? Or do you provide? And we collect that data from everyone in the company. So this could be individuals that are out in the field as salespeople. This could be our support team up front, our C3 team. This could be the marketing team, anybody. And we put all of the data on a spreadsheet, and then we analyze that data. I can't tell you, we have done it in the past where we have had a good idea. So Ryan and I, it usually comes with brainstorming, and we get in a creative mode and we create something. And we created something that was extremely cool, just nobody wanted it. And that is a waste of time, energy, and it's not great on your morale either, that you create something that's really cool and realtors go, yeah, what am I going to do with this? So, I would strongly urge you that you just ask. I heard a speaker a couple of weeks ago. He said, don't solve a problem that doesn't need solved. Ask more questions, read less minds, is another phrase that he had. So I would strongly encourage you to ask your clients. If you're not sending them emails or sending them questionnaires, now's a great day to start. If you're thinking about adding a particular service, send them out an example and see if any of them would like it.
Yeah, this whole thing, it kind of reminds me of a podcast we did just a few weeks ago about whether to grow or not to stay competitive. I think these two issues are really kind of closely related. For the single, photographer owner, like C Imaging, well, I had one other photographer helping, but say it's just one or two photographers in the company, and they just get asking for more and more. Is there a point of diminishing returns when you're trying to offer too much and you kind of lose sight of the core products and services that you're really, really good at?
It's a great question, Craig. And that is something that the way we analyze it at WOW is we look at usually these come in forms of upgrades and add-ons. So typically in 2022, your photography package is pretty much standard. That's where agents start. Is with photography. Now, we have worked really hard at WOW to have 70% of our jobs upgrade to video. But then on top of that, we look at all the other ancillary upgrades. And a term that we use, Craig, just as a side note, I love verbals, but we call that not being a commodity, what you mentioned, getting stickier with our clients. So how can you attach yourself more to your clients? And the stickier you are, the tougher it is for your client, for the realtor, to use someone else. So if you're only shooting photography with them and another photographer comes along and they have equal quality and they are $5 less, then it just makes sense that an agent, and they might have a good relationship with you, but you will be beat out on price is what I'm ultimately saying. Now, if you happen to do photo, video, and say you do Facebook campaigns or you do 3D tours or any other ancillary items that are important to the agent, if you put the sign in their yard, if a photographer comes along and has better photos than you for a cheaper price, but they won't put the sign in the yard, you are stickier with that agent. Thus, if the agent leaves you, they have to find someone to put the sign in the yard. So those are all things to think about. I know we happen to have an agent. It was an agent in Columbus, and she worked with a realtor who just happened to do brochures. And quite honestly, to be kind, this photographer and the brochures were all terrible. But it served a purpose for that agent as to where she saw the value. She saw that the photos and the video was better and what it could get her to grow into, but she needed those brochures. And then we build in brochures into Spiro so that everybody can have brochures, but that's a side point. But I went off on a little bit of a tangent here, Craig, but I think we need to ask our agents what they want, be as sticky as we can, and develop those relationships and build with them.
Yeah. I still was just wrapping my mind around the signpost installing, and I'll be full confession here. A couple of weeks ago, I'd asked a question about room measurements. I noticed a lot of photographers have added room measurements, and that was something that honestly in my market when I was with C, I never had anybody ask that of me except for one person. And I thought it was a really unusual request, and I did it for one or two of her listings, and it wasn't working great. I didn't have a laser measure at the time, and I ended up just being honest with that realtor and saying, look, it's just not something I'm really ready to offer as a service to all my realtors. You know, my appointments are pretty packed, and so I didn't take advantage of that. And in hindsight, in retrospect, I probably should have, because it is a thing now, and it's something that it doesn't take much time, and it just adds more profit to the appointment. You're increasing your average sales price. So yeah, I mean, make yourself sticky. You know, like you said, make yourself sticky. Bring more value to the appointment, to the realtor, and you're going to increase your average sales price. You're going to build your business. If you can provide more services in an appointment and make additional money without having to try and find more agents, that's the easier way to build a business. It reminds me of a phrase my dad just always told me: work smart, not hard.
Yeah. Back to your particular, agreed with all that, Craig. Back to your particular case of room measurements. I think this is a good example that, you know, as an agent asked you for a service that you weren't offering, there's going to be some hurdles to become proficient with that. And I think maybe what, you know, the data that you analyze at that point, Craig, you know, you looked at, I assume you looked at what equipment you needed, the time in the time spent in the house. I'm sure you looked at how much you could charge, or I'm assuming that you analyzed that data and then at the end, you know, just concluded that it won't be worth the time because your time was better spent elsewhere. Is that, you know, what kind of data was it going through your mind at that point? Do you remember?
I'll be honest, it wasn't a formal review of all the data, but those were all questions I looked at. And the time was my major factor, because it did add time, because like I said, I didn't have the laser measure. And I just was so focused on just photos and video tours, and I knew those took me long enough, and I was making enough money doing what I really enjoyed doing, that would allow me to serve more realtors and just develop those relationships that, for me at the time, the room measurements just, it wasn't important to me for my business. And not to say that it wouldn't have been or could have been a good thing. I can see it very well could have. It's just, for what I was doing in the moment, you know, it was a decision I made. And ultimately that's what it has to be for all of us, is, yeah, taking the data and weighing, is this worth my time? Am I passionate about it? But I had a thought pop in my mind. Maybe I don't really want to do it, but maybe I could subcontract out or find another shooter to help me grow my business that wouldn't mind doing that. And we give them those jobs, and we can still, you know, profit from that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know in the markets where, particularly the Charlotte market, where we're not offering room measurements right now unless they do a Matterport tour, we recommend a company that we know the owner's a great individual. He's fully staffed. We like his processes, and we just refer him. We've looked at it and we review it all the time. But Craig, I think you made the right decision at that point. I think any decision that we sit on, you know, it's just our next best draft. I'd worked with a coach for quite some time, and that's what he called it. You know, you got to analyze data, and you've got to make a decision, and then you've got to move on. That's just your next best draft. You can always change it, but we can't stay in the moment and not make a decision.
Right. So not a super long topic this week. I think we've pretty much kind of we've covered it. It's related to that question we tackled before about, do I grow my business to stay competitive or not? You got to look at the data. You got to make decisions for yourself and your company, what's best for you, and then just move on from there and be comfortable with that. I did have some pushback in the Facebook forums when I was talking about the room measurements. I don't know if I mentioned that. And somebody got a little snarky with me and said, what, you don't want to make more money? And, it's never that you don't want to make more money. It was just the decision I made in the time. So make the decision that is best for you and your company, what you enjoy doing, and don't let other people, make you feel bad about it. But at the same time, we can all learn from each other. And we can all build each other up and help us to, help us to see perspectives that I never thought about. So, perfect example. I started with that sign example, and I think it was kind of silly, a photographer having to put in signs because that's what the realtor said. But then you brought up the example of, out west that actually a lot of photographers are doing that, and it works for them. So we can all learn from each other. And that's what this is all about. The whole Spiro podcast is about education and informing and learning our business better. So if you've got a comment or, maybe a product or service you've been asked about, we would love to hear about it in the comments. Just share your experience and your perspective, because we'd love to learn from each other and build that community.
Yeah, we'd love to know how you're getting stickier. I love the verbal stickier. How are you getting stickier to your clients? Or what help do you need to offer an ancillary product or service to become stickier with them? Let us know what, if we're offering, I'll be happy to talk you through what we do at WOW. What Craig be happy to share with what he did at C. And then we have a great viewer base out there that can offer some support as well. So let us know in the comments or email us at hello@spiro.media. How are you getting stickier with clients, or what information do you need, or what would you like to offer to become stickier?
Right. Todd, any last thoughts that you have besides that? Great advice, great insight.
Yeah, I just love the quote. It was John Acom. I remember his name now. He said, "Read less minds, ask more questions." And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Good stuff. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's podcast. If you've got a question related to the business side of real estate photography, drop us a line. You can email either hello@spiro.media, or you can reach out to myself, Craig@spiro.media. And if you have questions about Spiro itself, again, we would love to answer that. And we would just love to hear back from you. We're going to be tackling another subject in a little. I'm not sure if it's going to be next week yet or not, but we're going to talk a little bit about the story of WOW Video Tours. You've heard us talk about WOW. The name of the podcast is Spiro, so you might be wondering, wait, what's the relationship between WOW and Spiro? So that's coming up, and also we're going to be talking with another guest about outside-the-box marketing ideas. So stay tuned about more details on that. Again, Spiro, Craig@spiro.media or hello@spiro.media. If you'd like to email us, leave comments here on the YouTube channel, or you can email us if you're listening to the audio podcast as well. And don't forget, there are 2 channels to check this out. Either on our YouTube channel, just look up Spiro Media, or you can go to spiromedia.podbean.com. The audio-only podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, just all the typical podcast outlets. So until next week, enjoy your blessings and take a breath.
Thank you for joining us for the Spiro Podcast, Managing Your Real Estate Photography and Videography Business. This is a production of Spiro and WOW Video Tours. You can find out more about Spiro's real estate media business management software at our website, spiro.media.